Hey, what's up, Herminators? Welcome back. I've been missing for 2 weeks, and I'm not dead. I've been quite sick, and since I'm sick, I have to catch up with a lot of schoolwork and then potentially find a job. And I did get one, and I'm living very happily. But I did promise you guys a podcast on my last video, and I didn't do it. I really apologize for that. But this is the podcast that we're doing right now, and this gentleman right here is the guy that I was going to introduce you. That's going to help out with my channel and then help out with putting out content. And we're calling this podcast the Meta Ragers because one, we love to talk about meta, and second, we sometimes rage a lot, and I think I rage a lot quite a bit, so yeah, I think it's worthy of calling me a Meta Rager. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself, Kill? Yeah.
Yes, I'm Kill-9, and just to let y'all know, I should explain real quick. I'm not Kill-9 because Kill-1 through 8 was taken. It's a Linux command, hence the hat. It's myself being geeky, so fellow geeks will get it. If not, look it up. And we're both very passionate about this game, and we're just going to dive in and dissect the psychology and just some of the things that people don't always talk about that we think they should talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, like, most of our podcasts, we're going to talk about the meta, how we feel about it, how bad we get, and then we're obviously gonna give you some tips of how to climb the ladder. We're not specifically good, but we're like high ranked in the ladder and stuff like that. We know enough to give you guys tips and how to climb where we are, and then potentially climb to legend rank as well, because we're all just trying to strive to climb that legend rank one day and eventually reach our dreams. Maybe you guys want to be MLG players and stuff like that, or just want to reach legend rank and become very skilled at the game. So yeah, so let's begin our podcast. So I think the first thing that we're talk about is the new hero that Blizzard is going to release. So what do you think about that? The new hero, Magni, I think that's what he's called.
Yeah. So okay, back when they posted the hint, you can kind of see the outline.
Yeah.
Some people, there was a lot of talk in the forums. We were like, oh, it's going to be a new hero. Like, I think people thought it was going to be like a new hero, like a Death Knight. I knew it was going to be something cosmetic.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the pros and the cons. At first, I thought that, let's say this was just going to be for the warrior class, and you were only going to be able to use the skin for the warrior.
Yeah.
However, I think it is cool that you could use the skin for everything.
Uh-huh.
Now, I know they had to go through the trouble of doing the animations and all that, but at a $10 price point, to me, I think that's expensive. Like, that's on the premium end.
Yeah, I think that's pretty expensive too, like for $10 just for cosmetics alone. But especially if they actually introduce like a new hero with like a different hero power, I'd probably have to relearn the game again because I gotta shift the meta like crazy too. But luckily they didn't do that. But I heard that that you don't get the gold animation, like the gold hero power, until you actually unlock the golden hero power for the original Control Warrior. Is that the warrior? Is that right? Or
actually, it said I thought you had to unlock the gold with each class. So if you're playing rogue and you want the gold to be around, or maybe it could be warrior, I don't know. But still, you have to.
Oh, that's pretty tough then. That's pretty tough. I think that's pretty tough.
And I'm saying you get the animations and the card back. To me personally, I don't care about the card back. So we get a new one every single season on the left. And I mean, I think everyone gets sick of it after a while. So here's what this reminds me of. I don't know if you ever played the kind of PvP half MOBA version of Warhammer.
No, I have not.
It's like, I don't want to go into a whole side up, but once that MMO died, they kind of stripped it down, put the best elements, but they charged $10 for every single hero.
Really?
And except it was worse because with their currency, you couldn't just pay. You had to pay like $20, and you would only have a little bit of currency left over. So it was really bad. But it kind of reminds me of that versus if they just sold them all for $5. Now keep in mind that was a game too, where the heroes had all these abilities.
Yeah.
And for me, I just feel like $10. I mean, it's not even like amount. I mean, that's a high price point. I think if they did it for $5, you don't care about the card backs or even if there's any extra backgrounds or whatever. Just give me the damn hero. Yeah. That would be better. Think about it. There's 9 classes, so there would be like, or people suspect that would be $90. And I think you do have to pay real money because some people were like, "Oh, screw that! You can't buy it with gold." Well, some people should know. I mean, I almost kind of feel like they never played a free-to-play game before, where cosmetics generally you pay for real cash because you're showing your appreciation for the game.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, not to knock Blizzard, but I don't think this hero is that cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's too cool. Like, well, I guess, like, in a way, it's okay, I guess, but it's not as sick as the original, like, the original Warrior, where he's golden, because there's a bunch of flames in the back and stuff like that, right? So, yeah.
So here's what I wish that they would have done, and it's so simple. So just like, you know, let's say you're playing Rogue, right? There's only that one female character. What if they just did the opposite sex version? Like, what if they made a male character?
Yeah,
you know, same with Warrior. What if they made like a female Warrior, like the Tauren race or something else cool? That's what I would have done. I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of neat. You can use the hero with any class. I would have liked more class-specific ones. Make it cheaper. Don't do the stupid card backs.
Yeah, yeah. That would have been a lot more cooler. I think like a different gender, right? Like I can play as a different gender.
Yeah, of course. Though on the ladder, if you face somebody with that, you're gonna be like, ugh, if you lose, you're gonna be so pissed.
Yeah,
now, what I would pay for if there was like some orc face, you could just like some orc would be like smork, and that would be so annoying. Like instead of well met, like right before.
Yeah. Even saying well met pisses people off at times. That's pretty sick too. I just wish they put smork. Yeah, if they had an emote that says smork, I would actually do it. I would actually buy it for $10. It's actually quite worth.
So
even tilts people, right?
And I saw this where it's not the only surprise. Like hopefully we'll get like another real expansion in July.
Yeah. I heard that the hero isn't like the only thing that they're gonna put out. I hear like from the Chinese servers, they say that other than the hero, there's gonna be another expansion that I hope that's more cards, like additional cards that they're gonna give us and stuff like that. Yeah, that should be good.
Funny when you're saying if it was another hero, you'd have to like relearn the game. I would hope that, let's say that they did have something like a Death Knight. Yeah. I think that you can't charge to unlock that, or if you do, you would have to buy for in-game gold. That would be a huge advantage.
Yeah, that would be a huge advantage if you can buy like a hero with like gold only. If you're gonna buy a hero for gold only, it would actually turn to pay to win. That's pay to win immediately. Yeah.
I think if they were smart, like with the next expansion, it would be the hero would automatically be unlocked. It would be packs like GVG. Let's say it'd be like the Undead expansion, but in that expansion, you would get the cards for that specific new class. So you'd still have packs with gold, but you wouldn't have to buy that hero otherwise. Yeah, I don't think they would do that.
Yeah, I don't think they would do that. They're not that stupid to do that. But $10 is quite hefty. $5 I might consider buying it. But yeah, but.
Speaking of which, since we're on this topic, and I only bring it up. So there have been a lot of forums and a lot of rage, and there were like polls to be done. But the one thing that I don't know, and I'm proud to say that I earned on Hearthstone, I actually earned a trophy where you report somebody and moderator took actions. I was like, I got that trophy because somebody and it was pretty insulting. They said like Hearthstone players are all stupid, so they'll pay the $10 for this. There was something really insulting. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna report them, picked reason, trolling, and I feel like this guy's causing trouble, right?
Yeah. You can't really call people stupid for that too. If they really like the cosmetics, and they go ahead and buy it, right? It's their own money and their own decisions as well. Yeah, and nobody's forcing you to buy it either, too. So
this is all just cosmetic. Yeah, if you don't buy it. It shouldn't matter. But while we are kind of talking about that, as far as like constructive feedback, that is my pet peeve. If somebody says like, I don't understand why this card wouldn't work, or I think this is stupid. It's like, well, can you give constructive feedback and say why you don't think?
So other than Magni, I think Magni, I don't know, I think people would buy him. Like a dwarf, that's something a little special. We don't see that too much. I think the only dwarf that we see is like the innkeeper. Is that guy a dwarf? I think that guy's a dwarf.
See, I thought that was the innkeeper at first.
Yeah. Oh, you thought it was the innkeeper at first? That'd be pretty sick. You could do it. If Blizzard would make like a new hero that's the innkeeper, I would buy it. It makes me feel like a boss.
Or some undead thing. I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was
as cool as we thought. Yeah, as cool as we thought. Yeah, they could have done something better, I guess. Like, yeah, it's a little underwhelming, like when I saw it, I guess. But yeah, overall, I think people would buy it for $10. Okay, the next thing we're gonna talk about is the current meta, laddering, and the decks that we used. So, how's the current meta right now for you?
Yeah. See, we don't call ourselves meta ragers for nothing. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, all right. Here's where I have to start, or just to kind of explain to people so they know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I've been playing the Hearthstone since the open beta, but then I was more just kind of playing casually or playing unranked, right?
Yeah.
And I think initially for new players it's daunting. You don't want to go on the ladder because you don't either have the best deck, so you're kind of playing unranked. And I think there's several different type of Hearthstone players. For me initially it was let's do unranked, let's collect the cards, let's at least do the minimum. But then after a while that gets boring, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So then you want to do ranked, but I want to say that, how do I put this? That I was playing the game, but it was more you kind of cast cards, you play things randomly, and I think this is where Hunter also gets its bad name.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really into analyzing it, like when I played like Magic the Gathering, for lack of a better comparison.
Yeah.
Then actually, up until and I guess we probably should explain this at the beginning, that when I saw you do your videos and kind of really going through like the decks, I kind of play Oil Rogue and reach out, and I saw, hey, this guy has passion for this game, like I do, and so that's kind of how we met and got into it. It's a lot more fun when you can kind of have a friend to run ideas off of and kind of build decks and face them up together. So fast forward, I really want to say up until these last few months, now I've been taking it seriously, and I see that the big differences between ranked and unranked. So when people talk about the game on the forums and they mention that they're having issues with ranked, I don't want to say that if you're not playing ranked, it's not the real game, but I kind of feel like that because it's totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, people need to understand that when you're in ranked, yeah, you know, you're gonna have that legend card. You know, you're gonna have that legend card that you need for that Mechanist. He's gonna be there if it's in the deck. Grom is going to be there. People who are on the ladder, things don't go, you know, you can't run things by them as much.
Yeah.
And last season, I think we both got to rank 3, and I know you talked about in your videos, there's a huge drop. I even saw starting back at rank 17 and getting to rank 12, there was a huge difference. Like I could use my snake traps, and then when I got to rank 12, then people wouldn't fall for that, and then they were actually going to me more face, which is kind of funny. And I was actually losing because of it, so I had to take that out. So the current meta, it's like it's funny how you wouldn't think it changes like every single season, which is great. But like what worked last season for me, now it doesn't work.
Yeah. The meta can really be a bitch like at times, but it's like this. It's like people always complain about the meta and stuff like that, but it's all about like understanding it. But that's mainly why I do my videos, right? I try to make you guys understand what the meta is. Like each and every deck that I feature, I always talk about the meta so you guys can understand it a little bit and the choices that I make. Like sometimes I put an Assassin's Blade in or Rogue, and then some people might not like agree with that, right? Because they're always scared of Harrison and Ooze, and it might be not worth playing, and you're losing tons of value. But when I play in it's just like an example. When I play on ladder, if I don't see Harrison or Ooze across like 10 games, then I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Assassin's Blade is pretty useful in the meta. And even if they do Ooze me or they do Harrison me in like one game, but that's like one game over like 20 games, right? I think that's pretty worth it if I'm gonna lose that one game over all those 20, right? So yeah, those are like the little things. Like we need to tech in like certain cards to climb up even higher. And then in my opinion, for the casual players, like there's like for the people who like there's like, as you said, there's like 2 sets of players, right? People who are more casual and people who like to play ranked. It depends on the person, if they're more competitive or not. If you have more like a competitive nature, you would feel like you would always want to play ranked and stuff like that and gain the highest rank as possible. But if you don't really care about that, casual is the way to go, and they might even think that's their real game to them, right? So yeah, but that's up to them too, and it's actually not that bad. Yeah,
sometimes I'll do casual if I need to like knock out quests and I don't want it to affect my rank. But it was kind of funny because like these last quests when I had to like, sometimes I hate the ones where you have to get 5 wins in a row. Like if I'm not that class, like I got that for Paladin and I was trying to use Hunter, then it's always a dilemma. Do I knock out my quest? But it's funny. So I did casual, knocked out those quests with Paladin. Of course, it's aggro Paladin, but I felt dirty because I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And so what's funny when I'm knocking out quests like that now, if it gets to a point where I know I can't win, I'll just even concede it earlier than I would on ladder. Which I'm like, wow, I have nothing to lose. I'm like, okay, there's a 1% chance I'm going to draw Tyrion that can save my ass. Why am I wasting my time? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You have nothing to lose really.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Hunter, because I know we'll talk a little bit more teching in cards, but with Hunter it's kind of interesting, teching in decks, and
yeah.
First off, what I find to be really frustrating is I hate I hate when Hunter gets a bad rap. I think usually the people who give it a bad rap are the people who play, I think, rank 20 to 24, like above in that range. Yeah, I guess if you kind of have like the basic cards and you throw it in with Hunter, yeah, it's going to do good. But the thing with Hunter that's so important that people don't realize is you do constantly need to be thinking about math and you need to be thinking about tempo.
Yeah. People say that like the Hunter's like the easier class to play, right? But yeah, truly, you always have to think about the math. Yeah.
I think it's more difficult, but the difference that I like about with the Hunter more than any other class is the hero power. And I think what's funny is like on one of your videos, I think it was either a priest or it was a warrior where you said, hey, the guy has 2 life, he might as well have 10 life. And like playing aggro decks like Zoo or even like Paladin, sometimes you get them down to that life and then they make a comeback. They get their taunts and they get their heals up. And so having the extra hero power, it's fun, does magically work. So, kind of more I mean is that some people say, well, you want to use hero power as much, but like on turn 3, you need to decide if you have fear in play, do you put on an abusive sergeant, do you attack with your hero power, or do you bring down animal companion? And it kind of depends upon the situation. And with Hunter, it's all about value. You want to get the most value, and it's also punishing. Like when people complain, it's like, dude, having 1 heal, having something even heal you a couple hit points can make someone else lose the game, and that's that's how close Hunter matters.
Yeah, but for me, it's saying that Hunter is, well, for me, that I think that Hunter does have its difficulties like in terms of playing, because then some people don't know when to use certain spells like Kill Command and Quick Shot. They might even waste on a minion if you feel threatened and stuff like that. But in my opinion, when you play like Hunter, like any Hunter in general, like mid-range or even in Face Hunter, it's that it's like you're on a ticking time bomb. Like that's how I feel, because you're gonna run out of steam and then your opponent's gonna catch up eventually to you. Like they can have like a comeback, like as you said, that Priest can heal themselves up and then Warrior can just shield themselves up like crazy. But then yeah, that's the difficulty of playing Hunter in my opinion, like mid-range. But Control, which we don't really see much, I don't think they have that kind of problem because they're playing to late game, right? But then I think Hunter is and sort of an easier class to play, but that's only to me though. The reason why is because you're only worrying about the stuff on board and in your hand, because you don't really care about what they have in their deck. But what I mean by on board is like the damage that you have on board on your own side. You're always only considering that, only doing the math about that in your next few turns. Because Face Hunter, you always have to plan the next few turns on how much damage you have, right? So you're only worried about the cards in your hand and the cards only on your board. You're never ever considering anything in their deck. Like how I play control decks, I have to consider each and every card in their deck, right? But Face Hunter doesn't really need to know that. But maybe mid-range does. But Face Hunter, they only need to know how to do as much damage to you as possible in the next few turns. But you are playing on the ticking time bomb, but I think that's like the most difficult part of playing Hunter,
Unless there's a threat.
Yeah.
Unless there's a threat on the board, like for me, like if they have a knife juggler, you want to kill that, preferably with your weapon, because especially if you're playing a paladin, they do muster for battle. You have a lot of 1 health minions.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you don't get rid of that, obviously like a Flame Waker, if you see, you've got to.
Yeah, you gotta take that thing down. Gotta take that thing down. But
I mean, it's. I want to say like your kill commands are even more precious than like Mage fireballs. Yeah. So rule of thumb, I try not to break. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna die next, if it's a choice between me losing the match next turn or I've got to kill this threatening minion, then of course. But sometimes it's just kind of like an intuition. Like rarely, like for instance, like you just don't want to use it flat out to kill a sludge belcher. You want to use your owls, or you want to use your creatures on board, or use your weapons. So, but sometimes there are reasons to do that. But Face Hunter, I think, is very unforgiving. And like the build I'm running now, can't take credit for it, but only run 1 arcane golem. Love things like the Worgen infiltrators, because what I think people don't understand, like when the arcane golem, you really want to try to save that as a finisher. Because you're giving your opponent an extra mana. But since Leroy is 5 to cast, I think you get more value from that, because Leroy is kind of like a kill command and an animal combined in 1, which for some other decks may be good.
Yeah.
But my favorite, I can't take credit for it. misdirection. I remember when I first started playing, I used to run that trap all the time. But what I love so much about misdirection is it triggers the exact same way as explosive trap. It's not like snake trap. And if you have them both in play at the same time, then it's going to trigger the explosive trap. So what's awesome about that, if you have a minion attack with 2 or less health, they'll never trigger misdirection. They'll always die from that. Here's what's even more OP. If you have a weapon open, so let's say I'm a warrior, I've got Death's Bite open, and say I have something that's I'll have a sludge belcher attack, and I have no creatures on board. Misdirection triggers, it's gonna bounce back at your face, and then it'll actually take damage because your weapon's open. Because notice you only close your weapon at the end of the turn. I didn't realize that at first.
Well, that's pretty insane. Yeah.
Yes, and so then let's say your Death's Bite, you've already attacked with it once, it has a 1 durability, then it's going to go ahead and kill that minion. Yeah. So it really gives you the edge with playing control, and just to kind of toss things out there.
Pretty sick, pretty damn sick.
So I find myself that with the face hunters, tend to do better for me, at least like against zoo, other hunters. And for me, actually, I like really playing that against handlocks a lot. Yeah. Because it's a race. I find most of the time, but between turn 5 or turn 6, unless you just get a bad hand, unless they have their moltens, you've already gotten your stuff out. You're going to defeat them. So with zoo, it's always tricky because they're not going to tap as much. At least when you get into lower ranks, but they can still kind of wreck your day. Druid is kind of iffy. I hate like Control Warrior. God, that's always, to me, that's one of the hardest matchups. But that's always fun if you can out armor them. But then for mid range, for mid range, if I'm kind of facing a lot of those other classes I have difficulty with, then I'll pop over to that, which is a slower start. But in mid range, you have the better late game. Yeah. Versus point with the face hunter. So for me, when you say taking cards, I switch back and forth between those decks. Yeah. Like the mid range, you have Loathleb, for instance, which especially against face hunter, urban hunter, Loathleb is devastating.
Yeah. Savant High Minion is devastating too. Just a 6/5 on the board, which was fine. 2 2/2s, that's insane too, because it also procs with the kill command. So next turn I could possibly have a kill command and do additional 4 damage to your face. So like the damage never goes away if you play Savant and High Minion, unless you silence it, but that's a different story.
So I've been using a Houndmaster, and I know I've been using that build that you made with 2 Houndmasters. Yeah. And it's awesome on that, or dude, it's also awesome just using it on a hound, turning that 1/1 into a 3/3.
Yeah.
It's happy that I've had that help me win that extra damage. So for me, when I play mid range, I've kind of learned, or even if you play the hybrid hunter, I like to start out playing it just as you would face hunter. Yeah. Except the difference is you want to bring out your minions more before using your hero power. But then again, with playing any type of hunter, you need to adapt your playstyle. If you're playing against an aggressive deck, even if you're mid range, if you're playing against, you're gonna kind of sort of start to adapt. I mean, you have to, or else they can just out. Yeah. They can, which gets first.
Well, for me, when I play mid-range, I go like this. Like, I have this really simple type of mentality. I play as aggressively as possible, and then make you sort of think that I'm face hunter, and then maybe if they put out stuff that they can come back with and stuff like that, and I probably will go like, okay, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna play out my big creatures like Savannah, Jaime, Dr. Boom, and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's a pretty simple way of thinking how to play mid-range hunter, because not a lot of people know how to play mid-range hunter. They think they should play conservatively because they're a bit slower, but I don't really think so. Yeah.
See, what's funny about that is, and you really get this from playing games, there's certain times where you do want to kind of have to do an all-for-nothing risk where it pays off, and then other times where it's like, where it really doesn't. But I think though, for like Hunter, I think you need to play the hybrid, which is really just kind of more of a variation of mid-range, but play the face and play the mid-range. Yeah. And just kind of see, because they both have to deal with each other, especially if you can kind of make your opponent guessing. Like having that third trap is also just awesome, because sometimes it can really throw people off. They think it's another freeze. Yeah. My only issue with freeze traps, I'm a lot more conscious, because like playing warrior, I hate giving them like an extra armor up, or I hate giving them an extra defenders of Argus, if it's like a handlock, that creature's battle cry that can come back and play. But then again, early game, I mean, it can be totally awesome. You can use it to protect your shredders or anything else in play. And as you mentioned with the high main, having that extra animal sometimes for a kill command is just too good. And it's an awesome silence target. The only thing I haven't tried, which would be good in the mid range, if you could just like tech in a feign death. I don't know what to take out, but that may be kind of situational. Here's what I do like about Hunter. Maybe more so than you get, maybe let's say playing a priest or a control warrior. It's on that turn where you're biting your nails and you're like, okay, if he doesn't bring out a taunt, if he doesn't bring out a heal, if there's no counter spell or loath leb, I win. Like that adrenaline rush. To me, I'm trying to think of another deck. Maybe Zoo you might kind of get that with, but you know what I'm talking about. Like that turn when you have lethal, it's maybe not like Druid where you're slowly planning it. You've got lethal, and here's my other dilemma, which I've learned. So you'll read people say, which is true, don't use quick shot just to draw the extra card. Kind of use it as you need to, unless for me, like you get down to 1 or 2 cards. But I've had opportunities like last game or two I played where I couldn't. To me, to get value out of quick shot, if you're going face, you need to use it in the hero power in the same turn, because otherwise, I don't think it's worth 1 extra damage if you could use hero power.
Yeah. Sometimes I like for a quick shot, I think that, well, I play a different style. I usually save it for that extra card draw, but then unless I like really need to, like something I can't remove, like Zombie Chow quickly, like the early game, like the early aggression, like when they use it to fend off your early aggression, like Zombie Chows and like Mini Bot, I actually usually, or even North Shower Clerk, I usually use my quick shot on that and stuff like that, yeah.
Because what I thought happened is that, and I lost a game because they brought out Loath on turn 5, and I was planning on doing hero power that combo. So, and I was like, man, if I had played that earlier, so that's kind of the dilemmas that you deal with with the hunter. So kind of with that same thing, I really want to talk about Zoo.
Yeah,
Zoo. Well, I love the concept is that. Get out, I like to say, the Voltron concept. You have all these little minions that you can form together and have these buffs that just go out and attack either face or methodically kind of take somebody down. And there's the 2 versions of the Zoo that I've been playing. More of the mid range, which has your Mechanicus, has your Void Collars, even has Sylvanas, and then there's that other version with that guy that plays in the Asian server where he teched in Zombie Chows.
Oh, that's pretty sick.
It's great. If you can, well, the funny thing, I think I messed it. I couldn't believe actually I outlasted a warrior because what's really sick, get like 1 or 2 Chows and 1 or 2 Imps, and then you cast Defenders of Argus on them. So now they're a lot harder to kill.
That's pretty insane.
So what's with Zoo is, and why I say it kind of has the similar balance of Hunter, that you want to be drawing more cards, but depending on what you're facing, especially with Zoo, you don't have the heals like you do with the handlock.
Yeah, that's true.
You want to be careful on overdraw, but at the same time, you want to keep that tempo, and especially the Doom Guard, that you can insanely, that's an extra 5 damage power, that's an extra 9 damage that can burst out at any moment. So I think what some people don't realize is that sometimes, you just need to have that 1/1/1 imp on the board, like from Implosion, because with Doomguard, you don't want to risk discarding your power overwhelming.
Yeah.
So you bring that, you have that, that's instant 10 damage. So I like having to figure that out. What frustrates me sometimes though playing Zoo, you have someone like Hunter where you can't use your hero power. The face Hunter, it's very difficult to be. They're gonna damage you. Yeah. Or Control Warrior gets their act together and just keeps destroying everything. Then you got to play around Brawl. So it's like
yeah. There's so much to play around while playing Zoo, like against Control Warrior. It's like the brawls. Like now people are starting to Tekken 2 brawls too, so it's pretty insane at the same time.
I love that. The funny thing is, when you have 2 brawls, you can play it 1 or 2 ways. You can either really wait until you need them, or you can just kind of throw away the first brawl.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is you just kind of throw it away, and then you really wait for someone to overextend. Yeah. And then it's like,
Yeah. That's actually a surprise factor, the biggest surprise factor I ever had. Like when I'm on ladder, they play a double brawl. I was like, who does that kind of stuff? And they put in cards like Gorehowl too, right? And I was like, how do you fit everything in there, right? It's like those really unexpected stuff.
But that's how you win, though. Like change the meta, add in one or two cards that don't necessarily the deck. Like I think now we've seen with Handlocks having 2 big game hunters. In the deck.
Yeah, 2 big game hunters. That's pretty insane. Damn, the cards they fit in. Yeah, Warlocks. Yeah, Warlocks in general, like Handlock as well. They started teching in Ooze. Oozes and double BGH. Those are pretty insane kind of tech ins that nobody really expected to Ooze either, right? But it does weaken the deck a little bit, but that 2-drop for 3/2 is actually pretty insane against aggro matchups too, because you can fend off a lot of aggression with that, just with that 2-drop. But I don't think it's like as good as a Sun Fury, but you don't really have to waste a Sun Fury, right? But yeah.
Exactly. And so I should also mention too, with that other mid-range, you only have like 1 imp in that deck.
Yeah.
Because the dilemma is you want to have that in the beginning hand, but sometimes it can be worse than Zombie Chow if you get that late game and you're playing a hunter and you only have like 10 health.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, do you really want to take that damage? Is the imp says, is this really necessary?
Yeah, that's true. That's impressive impersonator. Very.
I've played that enough.
Yeah, very impressive. Very impressive.
So much practice I can do, but no, you really have to decide. So I guess kind of with the hunter, depending on what I'm facing, I switch back and forth between the mid range, or the not mid range, and so that's when people complain about how hunter is a new cancer. I think what people never realize that with the Flamewaker, that's the new cancer.
Dude, that is the new cancer, dude. Like that card pissed me off so much on ladder, it's not even funny. Like you might think that card is really RNG based, but from the amount of spells they put out, that's a full board clear. That's even worse than Goblin Blast Mage. Goblin Blast Mage used to piss me off, but this card pisses me off even more.
It makes tempo really awesome. So what people need to realize, so you have a Sorcerer's Apprentice, let's say you have a coin, you have your mirror images, and then you just start casting spells, and I mean, since the Flamewaker does 2 attacks, you have to think of it, it's going to be a 50% chance every time you cast a spell that it's going to hit one of your minions. So if you have low health minions, they're just going to constantly keep dying. I think the version I'm playing too on the front page, it also has like the water elementals, which is just great against any type of weapon. You keep freezing them and all that. So if they do it right, they can get to a point where you can't kill the Flamewaker. They keep casting spells. They got the Sorcerer's Apprentice to back it up. They've got Coin. They've got Worm. Oh, and Worm is just as bad. When you see that, you need to kill that, or that could blow up really quick.
Yeah, snowball's so hard. It can even go to like 7 damage by like, I don't know, the next few turns with Sorcerer's Apprentice, which you can like spam as much spells as possible. Like I got killed by that by having 2 mana worms that are 7 attack. I was like, okay, I already lost the game. I should concede right here. Nothing I can do.
Yeah. So and that kind of also goes going into the traps. Like counterspell, dude. That that can totally wreck hunter. You think about that kill. You think about that kill command.
Yeah.
But see, to me, so like I hate when people BM. But if I know somebody's like gearing up, like they're gonna be casting that spell, I always go.
Yeah. Sorry.
The version when I play that, 1 counterspell, 1 mirror entity, and there's also. Archmage gets thrown into there for the spare parts. I mean, it's just tempo mage in general, and the unstable portal. I love that card. That can get you good things. That can get you evil things. But if you play it right, it's going to give your mana worm a buff, and it's and with your Sorcerer's Apprentice, it's going to be a 1 casting cost. You get and it reduces everything by 3, so you can bring in another creature for I've even played versions of the Knife Jugglers in it. I mean,
true. But yeah. Overall, that deck is pretty insane. The Mage, the new cancer.
I have it because of wanted to spend the dust on some cards. But for me, it's kind of like playing the aggro paladin it's not as consistent as more some of the other decks. So that's why sometimes you can play that, have 3 or 4 wins, and then I'll get some losses and get really frustrated. That's maybe when if I switch back to mid range. Or so last season I was playing control paladin, the double pyros, the double equalities, having like 3 or 4 things to heal, and I was doing awesome. For some reason this season I couldn't play it to save my life. I don't know if I was just getting bad hands, but I wasn't able to get out the tools that I needed fast enough. And sadly, when I've been playing paladin matchups with aggro, I've found I've been in the benefit. But you know what, one thing we do have to touch on is we're talking meta. And also, it grinds my gears when people say, "Oh, aggro in general is the new cancer." And in any type of TCG, you're always going to have your control. You're always going to have like your fatigue, your OTK. You just have to know how to deal with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I tried playing that paladin too. It didn't work out too well for me either. That's why I switched decks. I started playing mid range and then started playing rogue until rank 10, and I started playing priest. But then, I guess it's because it's too slow because we're having a very aggressive meta right now. But I guess like a lot of people saying that aggro is the new cancer. You can't really say that. Control, it can be just as good. It just takes a lot more thought into it because you're considering each and every card in their deck and stuff like that. It's a little bit more difficult to play than aggro, but it's because aggro, I can't really say they're more difficult to play. They're both about the same. It's just aggro, you're always on a time bomb. You always need to plan out your game in the first 7 turns, unless the control matchup's gonna kick your butt after after those 7 turns, right? Because they have like a comeback mechanisms and stuff like that, and like how priest has a lot of healing and control warrior has a lot of like armor, and which can come back them from the game and stuff like that. Pretty much.
Yeah, I just think, and I know we've talked about this a little bit more. Like sometimes I'll switch over to control warrior, but it's just games are just can be so long. Sometimes I want that in-depth play, but sometimes I just get a little bit. Well, it's like playing an MMO. You want to DPS is more fun, doing the damage all the time versus the guy that's just like just blocking and I'm tanking. Yeah.
It's like playing the battle of wits, dude. It's like in the first, like if I'm control warrior and the other guy's aggro, in the first 7 turns, I need to like know how to fend off your aggression so I can come back in 7 turns. Or this guy is gonna go like, I need to beat you down in 7 turns. It's stuff like that, right?
Yeah. It's a different type of satisfaction. Like, okay, you bring this out, slap you down. Because Warcraft has so much removal, and then you're playing to get to get out to the late game. But it all depends on playstyle. But so here's the thing people don't want to admit. Let's say if the meta didn't change and it wasn't like as frustrated as we'd all be getting to like legend, and we'd be bored. So like see, before playing Hearthstone, like, oh, you have a full head of hair. I had that. See, now I don't. No. but that's how I feel. As much as maybe I'm sitting here cursing and I'm getting frustrated, once you do finally like break through. Like when I was stuck at rank 12, I find a deck. Go down a few notches. Okay, now I feel stabilized. And what I mean is, like before, I was at rank 9. Sometimes you go up 2 ranks and you go back. That's fast. But when you're stabilized, you're not losing enough. You're like, okay, I'm only like 1-2 stars off. Now I'm like down to 7. So once I get to the point, then I'll be happy. And, oh my God, those bonus stars now are so awesome. Yeah. So I think once you rank 5 and stop, but you definitely get more of a reward and satisfaction of. Once you do get there, and so sometimes so it could be a combination, I think, of the player and of the current meta. But since we did bring up warrior, let's talk. I do want to talk about patron, which is interesting. And so I didn't realize this, and we'll talk more about this later. Until we were watching some of the recent tournaments, when people are saying that the patron decks are broken. To me, the only broken part is the battle rage mechanic. For 2 mana, you shouldn't be able to draw half your deck. That's it's like miracle. I mean that's insane.
Yeah, it sort of reminds us back then of the Buzzard and Unleash the Hounds combo, where Buzzard was 2 mana and you could draw your whole deck just from Unleash the Hounds. It really feels like that, because how hard is it to damage all your minions and also damage yourself, right? And then use Battle Rage to draw like half of your deck. So in like the recent tournaments, I saw like, I think it was Kit Kat that drew his whole deck with just 2 Battle Rages alone. That's actually pretty insane. Yeah. What do you think?
Funny that you brought up the mechanic, and I know we I talked about before how with the buzzard, it used to be like only when you cast, not whenever you summon a minion, only when you play them from your hand.
Yeah.
You used to be able to draw a card. And we're talking about, what if they switch back to that? Well, oddly enough, with the spider, I mean, you never throw one of those in your deck now for 5 mana, but with the spider, I was able to get one of those, and it was like late game where I had 10 mana, so I had no problem playing it, and I played another low minion, and I was able to draw a card, but it wasn't overpowering, but actually, playing mid-range hunter really helped me late game, so it's just kind of a shame. I wish Blizzard would fix that.
Yeah.
I think those cards would still be viable, and you wouldn't be able to abuse them with Unleash the Hounds.
I think if it was like 4 or 3 mana, it would be okay. Like I would still play Buzzard. Like in like a control or mid-range hunter, like 4 mana would be okay in my opinion. But yeah, Battle Rage is actually pretty overpowered card. Like even before, like they used to have a little bug with Battle Rage where when your own hero is damaged, it doesn't draw the card for it. Yeah, I think that's a little bit more balanced because if your hero is damaged and then you can draw a card with Battle Rage, that card almost has like no downfall at all. So using 2 mana with Battle Rage, and then drawing just 1 card, right? It's like a shittier Arcane Intellect, which is not bad if you have nothing else to play and you desperately need a card, but in theory, you're always damaged throughout the game, right? It's not like you're using it right off the bat in like turn 2, right? Because you have a lot of other cards to play. But if you're desperate and you need a card, then you can use Battle Rage for 2 mana to draw that 1 card because you're damaged. That's pretty insane. So that card pretty much has no downfall at all.
Yeah. Forget one other streamer who did like the history of Hearthstone and the different classes that went through the change. I think that card initially was something crazy. It was like 1 mana, and then they changed it where it wasn't your heroes. But yeah, you're right. It's almost equal to Arcane Intellect and should have a little chance. They should. What if they did something that it would only be off of minions and maybe make it like a 3 casting cost or your minions? I don't know. There should be some happy balance where you can still draw minions as intended or cards as intended, but not half your deck. I mean, that's.
Yeah, some restrictions, like it's a shittier Arcane Intellect, but it has way more potential because you can also draw all your whole deck, right, if you have minions on the board. Yeah, pretty overpowered card in general, but Grim Patron itself, I don't think it's that overpowered.
No.
Yeah, no.
I want Blizzard to do something where I don't want them to like do something ridiculous, like where they bump the casting cost up to 5 or 6 to where it becomes unplayable. But at the same state, they need to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if it was only your minions? Do you think it would still be viable?
I think it'll be pretty okay. I think it's 3 mana and it's your own minions would be just right in my opinion. Would be just right.
Like not even hero, just your 2 mana. And it would only be draw a card for your every friendly damaged minion.
But it's not that hard for warriors to make your own like minions damage, right? Because they have Whirlwind. Let's say I have like whole board and you just Whirlwind, right? And I can draw like most of my deck and I just lose out that 1 card because of my hero, right? I think it should be cost 3 mana and it should only work for our own minion. I think that's pretty balanced because yeah, so it has more, like you get more punished for it, I guess. So yeah, I think that's way more balanced.
Because the problem is that they would, let's say someone has Emperor down, and so you're able to do your combo, you're able to bring your patrons in play with Warsong Commander, and then you have just like 2 mana left, and then you're able to like replenish your hand. I think that's the issue, is using it on the same turn that you fill the board, not giving your opponent a chance to answer. Yeah, so I think that would definitely be good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's one of those decks where really, if you kill their Frothings and you kill the patrons, they've really got nothing left.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that deck is like a combo deck. If they have the key cards gone, it's totally game over. Grim Patrons, Frothing, Warsong Commanders. If anything of those dies, like all of them, is completely over. Yeah, my opinion.
Yeah,
though. Yeah.
It's just frustrating if you're playing something like Face Hunter, or you don't have or like I'm playing Zoo and you just don't have your answers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't remove the Emperor off the board, or you can't silence it, or you can't do anything like that.
Yeah, And then I think that some people started to tech in the shield slam for Grim Patron just so they have more removal, similar to a Control Warrior, so that for aggro matchups they can get rid of the aggression quite easily. I like that kind of tech in, but I forgot who did that. I think it's Zaria that did that. I have to look for that deck list and show it to you guys. But the shield slam tech in was actually pretty sick. It helped out the aggression a lot and pretty suitable for the meta.
I saw that in earlier builds initially, especially the armor smith can just get an insane amount of armor.
Yeah, and then combo with shield slam. Oh, so sick. So sick.
Yeah, if you're playing against Patron, you got to take warrior in general. You gotta take out those armor smiths.
Yeah, you gotta take out those armor smiths, or you're gonna lose as an aggro matchup. You can't leave that armor smith alone, man. Even when I play rogue, I even eviscerate that stuff right off the bat because that thing is gonna reduce so much of my damage, and I only have so much, right? So yeah. Overall, yeah. Your Patron Warrior. Oh yeah, if you guys want to climb to the legend quite easily, I think you guys should practice Grim Patron Warrior. I think that's the deck that's very consistent of climbing the ladder right now. It's pretty. I would say it's pretty overpowered since you can draw most of your cards into combo and stuff like that. So yeah, if you guys want to climb to legend quite quickly, Grim Patron is the deck to go. But it's pretty hard to play, so don't go what.
I just don't have the patience for it. You know the saying stick with the devil, So that's
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So when I was climbing ladder, I think there's another deck that I thought was pretty good was the Priest. It was very similar to the Acolyte Priest where he teched in 2 Acolytes instead of the Thought Steal. I think that's pretty good because Thought Steal, you have to what Priest really wants is card advantage, because if you have card advantage you can react to your opponent's board quite easily, and then Thought Steal is a card that can save your life many times because the RNG, you're pretty much betting your life on RNG and then just hope you can win with Thought Steal and then the card that brings you, and most of the time it works, right? But I think the Acolyte Tekken is pretty nice too because a lot of people don't believe in RNG because I don't know. yeah. I for one don't believe in RNG, and I think the Acolyte of Pain is actually pretty good because that deck list right there is very reactive to your opponent's board. So the more cards you draw, the more you can react to it, right? And I know that you have a little bit of problems with Priest because there's too much reactive cards and you can't play them properly. Yeah.
See, and that's been my frustration playing Priest.
Yeah.
You're waiting to kill something, or you're waiting to control something, but there's nothing on the board. It's oh man.
yeah. Sometimes for me, I just wait for 4 turns doing nothing, just so they can play something on the board and I can take it, and just for them to lose tempo, right? Because if they don't do anything and they don't put anything on the board, I think I can do that as well. And then as soon as you play something, I can just take your stuff and play it as a tempo kind of game, right? And Priests, they play similar to Shaman, right? And you always have to play on tempo. If you don't play on tempo, you're gonna lose because if you're behind on board, it's really hard to fight back the board to your favor. And so since that deck looks like this, I usually tech in a Light Bomb because that's my oops button. If I'm screwed, I just play Light Bomb and just wipes out everything, right? Most of the time it wipes out everything, and it saves my lifetime and can bring back the board. So those are that little tech in that I put into the deck.
Yeah, it depends. I used to have trouble playing Priest, but if I'm playing aggro, then I assume, but depending, as early as turn 4, the board could be wiped.
Yeah.
So don't overextend, and then if they have a lot of creatures, it's not going to be Light Bomb. But the funny thing, though, every time when I've played Control Warrior or Paladin or Control Paladin, that's the one match where I've been guaranteed to win. Just because of my armor, it's we've drawn our entire decks, and it comes down to 5. And with Warrior, just the amount of sickening armor, or I'm holding onto Ramesh, and then with the Paladin, just the sick amount of heals and just the pyro.
yeah.
They're so long games. If they're a Priest, but then again, they can also turn it around. They can also turn it around. But those games, I'm oh my god, it's going to be such a long game because he's literally going to draw his deck. So I jokingly say Fatigue Warrior.
Yeah.
Which that's also the frustration playing against Fatigue Mage. And so I think with playing any mid-range or aggro deck against Control, there's the turning point where they get their heal bot, they stabilize themselves, they get their armor, or with Priest especially. I mean, there have been times where they get down to 2 life, and then you've exhausted all your resources, now they're back up to 20 life, and it's sickening, and they don't even play heal bot. So but that's what makes it great about this game. It's like there's that turning point, and if you can't do anything, then you're screwed. But then the priest's like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's like, you're done, man. You're done. Man, that's why the main thing that I like priests. Like, even though it's a slow type of game between like control and control matchups, I really like priests because sometimes it's very satisfying. You just take your opponent's creatures and stuff like that, right? So sometimes you use Shrinkmeister, and then you take the card with like Shadow Madness, like for example, I take their Sylvanas and then I bump into one of their creatures and steal again. That's really satisfying. That's the main reasons like why I like to play priests in general. Yeah.
Well, the other two with the priest is psychologically that you have to think turn 10 of mind control, even if they don't have it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even if I don't have mind control, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because by that late in the game, I'm seeing it less, but I don't want to just give my opponent Tyrion. It's like, okay, what do I want to?
Yeah,
that's worse than them actually, silencing and destroying them. So to me, though, I have to decide if I want to invest in the Cabals and the Light Bomb, but. I don't know. You can't play every single song. One thing I wish I was better that you're awesome at is Rogue. I mean, I guess that just takes like a lot of experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's one Rogue deck that I really want to play, but I'm not rank 5 yet, but I'm pretty close. Got up to rank 7, but I'll eventually get there. But when I reach rank 5, I really want to play a deck that I'm comfortable at because I don't really want to lose too much stars, and I don't want to tilt too much, right? But there's just this one Rogue deck that uses Scarlet Crusaders. I actually got it off Ryzen, and Ryzen got it off one of his subscribers, but that deck looked pretty interesting and pretty insane. So Scarlet Crusader. So I think that's a pretty good card to put in a deck. The reason for that is because it's really good against Grim Patron Warrior because it's 3 attack and they can't really trade into it that well. And then it's a very sticky minion. It'll be like one hell of a card to remove. So it's similar to Argent Squire in like the Chakadin deck where they play Blessing of Might and you feel pretty threatened by it because it does a lot of damage for like 2 turns unless you silence it, right? Then yeah, Scarlet Crusader is gonna do tons of damage.
Well, I kind of, the cool thing is I kind of think of it as a shielded mini bot, except it does one, except you're trading 1 health for more damage. Yeah, it's gonna be a bitch stream, and you give it the teachers for it. And it actually works surprisingly well because it's a 3 cost. You don't have to cast any other spells to get value.
Yeah.
To get value out of it. But the one good thing too, I was glad about watching him stream and watch other people screen. It's nice the human factor to see that hey, it's normal for people to lose sometimes. So anyone can have a bad day. Yeah. And playing Rogue, it just comes to being more experienced. But to me, I feel like with Rogue even more so than let's say like Paladin, if you have those early cards to fend people off, if you have those backstabs and whatnot, but then sometimes I can kind of feel like that deck could be like Priest, like if you're playing against a Control Warrior or like Druid where they don't have anything to backstab, they don't have anything to play, then you have to decide, do I just want to play my cards without their combos or, that's where it gets to be tricky. Yeah,
I think playing Rogue is like a lot of people find difficulties in playing it because they're not getting the right cards. It feels fairly clunky if you're up against like an aggro matchup because you can't really fend off the aggression really well if you don't get any backstab and blade foot and stuff like that. I guess like that's life, I guess, because you didn't have that good of an RNG. But usually how I play Rogue is like it's sort of like a do or die type of mentality, right? Because you're hoping you're gonna draw into some stuff and stuff like that. Some people might think like, why don't I use the deadly poison and stuff like that is to combo into it later on. Like I have the mana for deadly poison, like after that 1 mana, you could have saved 1 mana next turn, right? But usually I want to like if I draw into something that I can combo with, then I can use that deadly poison, right? Because it's like very low mana cost and stuff like that. And sometimes I have like a really buffed up weapon on the board, and then people will go like, why don't you just use it to trade into that minion? But I'm really hoping to draw into a Blade Flurry and wipe out their board eventually, right? And stuff like that.
You told me, you said it's not what you have in your hand, it's what you're going to draw into. It's a total different mindset for sure.
Yeah.
But so Rogue is one of those ones I want to be better at. But my problem, and actually it was a good kind of poll or someone posted to the forums on Hearthstone. They said, well, how often do you change decks? And I know with us, we like to play many. I just need to focus and I've started doing that now. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go Hunter and I'm going to go Warlock and just kind of stick with that. Oh, speaking of which, one other Warlock we did forget to talk about was the spell damage Warlock.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. That's an insane deck. A lot of people are reaching legend in that with that deck. It's like I don't know. Like I think most people can't really deal with the burst damage that it brings out eventually when they play Emperor and then reduce all the costs of things, because Dark Bomb and Soulfire don't really cost much if you Emperor them, because it costs like 1 mana and 0 mana if Emperor does it for like 1 turn. And then it's all of a sudden you play Malagos and then it bursts you down from like what 20 something HP. So yeah, that's a pretty good deck in general, I think. So what do you think about that?
I think that's awesome. To me, it's just I wish I could have gotten Malagos instead of Deathwing when I opened a pack. I would try that.
Yeah, that's like the first legendary I crafted, but back then it wasn't that good. But now as that a lot more cards came out, it became like pretty insane in Warlock, which nobody would have thought. Yeah.
Speaking of which, for the fun of it, look in the description. We're gonna put up a link to a straw poll.
Yeah.
Just kind of pick. Do you think we'll kill -9? Will I spend all my dust? Will I spend some dust? Just take a look at it. I'll just be curious to see what people think, because I'm bugging the hell out of Hermes all the time. Should I craft this? Should I craft that?
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, I want to make sure that I make the right choices.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to, do I want, okay, so a little sidebar. For me, my dilemma is, do I want to do freeze mage, or do I want to do that? And so I almost have all. Either way, it'll take my dust, and then I think, well, do I want to play druid and get like the force of nature? So yeah, I don't know. Or do I want to hang on to it for the next expansion? Maybe there'll be that awesome legendary I want to craft. It's like, ugh, I don't know. Maybe I think about it too much.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, it depends on the person, right? Like for me, I just play whatever is fun, because if the deck is fun, right, I wouldn't feel like it's a drag to play it and climb up the ladder with. So yeah, that's in my opinion though, because I like to play fun things. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just craft whatever that's fun, right? In my opinion.
Well, speaking of decks,
yeah.
Let's show you my deck.
Oh, what kind of deck you talking about, you? Oh,
my deck.
Oh, your deck. Oh, I see. Okay,
so the reason, which this is a Magic deck. So the reason I bring this up, and I guess you fall into the category of being a millennial, is that if you didn't grow up during the 90s, then you all may not have heard of Magic the Gathering, or you may have played it. And what was different about it is you have the paper cards, and you had to socialize with people in real life, and you didn't have a computer to make all these calculations for you. You actually had to do it. In other words, your mage, you cast a fireball, automatically does 6 damage. You don't have to think, especially the combo cards of the rogue. If you had to play that out in a card game, which Magic had things like that, it does make it more difficult. And so the reason I bring that up is I think that if you grew up in an era where you've never played physical card games, and especially for new players of Hearthstone, and you're letting the computer do everything, it can be it's a lot more difficult. Life Coach is an awesome example. He was a professional poker player, where mentally you've got to figure out, a lot of this shit out. And so if you watch some of these guys play, it's just incredible. And what you'll kind of see, and keep this in mind the next time you're on the ladder, if you watch these guys play, they'll sit there, they'll stare at the screen. If they're streaming, they'll talk out loud, like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. Of course, if they're facing an opponent in a tournament, they're just going to be stoic, which cracks me up. I'd be totally animated. I'd be like, oh my god, I almost have lethal. I wouldn't be able to contain myself. I'd be like, but anyways, next time you do this, before you do any play it in your head, or if you have to talk to yourself, think, don't just do the obvious play, because the funny thing is, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, where you've won games where you're like, okay, I could cast this thing, now wait a second, how am I going to clear this board? And just think about it. And sometimes what you'll see people will do, I kind of more like to call the unsure, the frantic player. Well, you'll see them bring a card out, then they'll take it back, then they'll bring another card out, then they'll take it back, then they'll start clicking through their cards like crazy. And to me, if I see a person doing that, then I've messed with their mind somehow, or they're flattered. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, but you can see now you've made them unsure. So sometimes when I've seen that, I think, I've got the upper hand. But it's kind of funny. It's ideally what you want to try to do is execute everything at once. Sometimes I've been guilty where I'll be like, okay, I'm going to attack with him for 2. Now I'm going to attack. You'll see somebody they'll drag, attack. It makes me mad if I win it and don't realize oh my god, I have lethal. I hate that. So now try to play the stuff out in your head, and it's more difficult just because the computer can do this. Doesn't mean that you should you shouldn't figure this out. And one thing I want to tie into that before I forget, and we'll put the link in the description, is download Deck Tracker. It is an amazing part of Hearthstone. It's totally legit. As one of the devs on Twitter said, anything that you could do with paper and pencil is what it does. And most people don't know this, but Hearthstone outputs a text file, a log of all the plays. And what somebody did is they translated that into a program where you have an overlay, and you see all the cards you've played, and you've seen what your opponent plays, and other TCGs like Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering. You can view their graveyard, they can view your graveyard. But you can become very familiar with the deck really quickly. Not only that, you can have it tie into hearthstats.net. You can see all your wins and all your losses and details. And actually, even if you subscribe to that, it'll actually even record a video of your matches. But for me, I don't know if that's worth paying the $7. But that's the only thing I feel that's missing. I wish Blizzard would integrate some more of those things, into the game. And other thing, since we are talking about watching the tournaments, I mean, watching you play, watching other people play, you can learn a lot. I think it takes a love for the game to do so. I think we like somebody would watch football or basketball, but when you see, like I said, I call them the pros because they really consider, like when you're waiting for your character, I must consider. It's like you really want to do that. You'll see that they'll stare. And I know people will tease and say rope coach and all that, and I've looked at this in the forum. So the bad type of roping is somebody who executes all their moves. And they sit, and I'm sure everybody's played against it, and they sit there, and the person will let the timer go out. They won't actually use the time to think. Or they won't put in the mode, sorry that happened. That really irritates me. But if you play unranked, if you play ranked mode, people take the game more seriously. They know that if there's a lot, there's a real line. You don't see people troll as much as it doesn't mean before winning somebody won't BM, but
yeah, definitely. Yeah, Hearthstone Tracker, like the Hearthstone Deck Tracker, actually helped you quite a bit, because if you're gonna play stuff like control decks, like you have to keep track of what's in their deck and stuff like that, right? Because let's say the controller has like 2 shield slam, like I need to know how many shield slam they use, how many executes, and sometimes I leave my seat and then they used it and I didn't check and I forget about it and stuff like that. Yeah, it really helps with memory. Like it eases, like, so it doesn't use that much of your memory or your energy in your brain, so you can use that energy somewhere else. Like that's how I feel about it. But I say that, and then you guys might not believe it, but I'm sort of like a science student. That's why I say stuff like that. And it's a little weird, but that extra energy in your mind can actually use it on elsewhere, like thinking out plays, thinking of your next boost and stuff like that. It really helps a lot.
So hey, I want you to think when you're playing. Yeah. I want people to think Hello Kitty Go Fish. Yeah. And the reason why I'm bringing this up. So me and my daughter play this, and she's really into Hello Kitty. Yeah. Some of the cards. Yeah. And the reason I bring this up, it's in your basic form. So with the basic game, each draw 7 cards. You ask your opponent, do you have Hello Kitty? Do you have Tippy? Do you have this certain card? And so I feel like some people would play the game that they're not paying attention to what their opponent's asking them for. So obviously, 2 turns later, if I know that my daughter asked me, "Do you have Hello Kitty?" and then I draw Hello Kitty, I know she still has it in her hand. I'm going to ask her. I'm going to get that card. And you can kind of look at the RNG part. Is if they don't have that card, you draw from the pile and then you put down your matches, which can kind of help you. Yeah. But even a simple game like that, you have a game plan that you need to pay attention to what your opponent is asking you. If you can remember those cards, then you'll win. I mean, that's just, even in regular Go Fish, that's just basic. And that I think some people they look at a net deck and like, oh, I can play this. They get frustrated and they think they can blast through a game, and it's like, no, that's just a deck that somebody put up they can play. I hate to break it to you, it doesn't mean you can play it. You can if you learn how to play the game properly, and you just need to decide how serious. You're saying how competitive you are to play Hearthstone. Even if you're playing casually, what's your goal? Do you want to get to Legend? Do you want to collect the cards? Either way, just have the game plan. You need to be very aware of what deck you're playing and what you're checking in. I think you've talked about this on the ladder. If you're seeing like you're encountering a lot of mages, a lot of hunters, a lot of secrets, tech in a Kazan. If not, if you're seeing a lot of weapons, throw in a ooze. Or Harrison. I think every deck should always have at least like there's 1 or 2 tech slots, where you could remove a Loathleb or whatever.
Yeah, that really comes with experience, because as I said before in a couple of my videos, it's like when you tech in the card, you also weaken the deck at the same time. So you really know, you have to really know your deck output, like the damage output and stuff like that. And it's similar to how Priest not running Mind Control. That I think Mind Control is like a tech card for control matchups, because it does win like 2% more for the Priest, but then taking it out Mind Control really hurts it against the control matchup, because let's say I'm up against a Paladin puts up a lot of pressure, and then we play until late game, but I'm always... And then a lot of Paladin, what they tend to do is like they save Tyrion because they're afraid that you have Mind Control, but once they figure out you don't have Mind Control, they immediately slap that down, and then that Mind Control that you could have had could have won you the game, which is not there, really lost you. But then not having that Mind Control is sort of not a dead card, like you don't have that dead card against the aggro matchups, because Mind Control, you don't really want to Mind Control like a weak minion that's 2-1 like body, right? So yeah, Mind Control, like something like that, teching in and out cards can really weaken or strengthen the deck depending on the meta. So yeah, that really comes with experience. But what I really like to do is, like, when I want to tech in cards and stuff like that, is I really want to keep it with the curve. Let's say I want to tech in like a Kazan Mystic, I usually want to take out like a 4-drop so that I can like have the same curve, so I can have it like, so I can keep up with the consistency and stuff like that. But it really comes with experience. It's really how you feel more comfortable with like with taking cards out and taking cards back in. Definitely. Yeah, I forget what it was, and when we were watching somebody play the Shaman, I was criticizing them, and you're like, there is no right list, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess it does depend on the curve. Yeah, it was a feral spirit, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, yes, because you know you're gonna suffer from overload, which is like the biggest. Yeah, it might seem weird to run like one Feral Spirit, but then yeah, there's no perfect deck, especially for Shaman, right? Because there's not really like perfect decks for Shaman at the moment. Like even any type of like weird stuff that they do, tech in and stuff like that, might even work, right? It also depends on the player and depends how the type of play style they play, like more aggressively or more passively, but it's all up to them, right? So yeah. For any deck, there's no right list, so anything you tech in, tech out, it's all fair game. Like, I believe that any deck that people make can go to Legend, it just depends what you tech in and tech out, according to the meta. So that comes with a lot of experience.
Yeah. But I think, too, that, you know, I think where some people get frustrated is they insist on, they're like, I have to play War, I have to play, it's like, yes, it's great. If you want to play a game in a certain style, I think that's what the casual is for. But when you're playing on the ladder, I mean, it's very competitive. You're playing to a very specific meta.
Yeah.
And so you can't. It's like I feel like people. It's like you don't have a right to complain if you're unwilling to adapt. You have to. You know, you totally have to adapt. Yeah, keeping the curve is important. So like, you know, in that mid-range hunter that runs 2 Houndmasters and 2 Shredders. If I were going to swap out a Kazan Mystic, I probably would do a Houndmaster.
Yeah, definitely.
I would do a Shredder, but then pretty much if they're not playing secrets, then it's like you're playing a Shredder without the being sticky, which sucks. But that would be.
Yeah. Like Houndmaster's more situational too, and then Shredder is just a solid card on its own, always consistent in terms of value. So yeah.
Like Life Coach. I mean, he's a great example of teching a deck specifically to him. Like the fact that he doesn't play like Lord Drax, that blew my mind away. I was like, wow. You know, in the way he has it, I guess he doesn't need it. But so that's kind of one of those cards where yes, they can be a dead card. Let's say like half of the time, but when you really need something to save your ass, you're glad you have it. So those are the kind of choices that you have to make. I guess like Twisting Neither would kind of be the same way. But I also want to talk about too, like misplays, which it's funny because sometimes when you're watching the pros, sometimes they would do something different. Sometimes I would agree. It's funny, some of the people doing the commentary, sometimes they would agree and sometimes not. I don't know. It's I guess what could be like a misplay for you and me, maybe to them it's not. Sometimes you can clearly see when it's a misplay. I know when I'm playing. You know, to me, yes, it's about winning, but if I lose and I don't do any misplays, I think that, you know, I can forgive myself more than if I lost because, oh, hell.
Yeah, definitely. I think it has a lot of factors into it, too, because a lot of tournament players, they have something like they have a lot of pressure. So pressure does affect, because what I saw today was like, I think Silent Storm, he had like a Bolter Giant that cost 0 cost, but he didn't play to put up pressure, instead he played an anti-kill bot. That was actually pretty a weird play, but I guess like because he had so much, I think it's because he had so much pressure that he couldn't see the card, or he forgot about it until like later on in the game. But yeah, I think pressure is one of the most important part into misplays too, because like even if you're laddering, right? Because like let's say you're near legend, unless you got legend like a couple of times already, right? Because that pressure already lift off your shoulders, because you know that you can achieve, like you gain that confidence, right? But even laddering itself, it puts up a lot of pressure, and you tend to forget the type of like the certain plays in your hand, and then certain cards that you could have like put out on that turn to put up pressure, and then it could potentially win you the game as well. So yeah, pressure is quite the factor.
Very true. That's where I think the whole psychological fact comes in. The psychology, and if you watch the pros, they're calm, they take their time. So it's like so I would encourage people, if you don't play like this, the next time you go to play, unless it's maybe like turn 1, don't rush out and just play the obvious play. Think about it for a second. Take 30 seconds, play it out in your, and then do it. And I think like with you, like I'm sick of the Hearthstone music. I like to keep the sound effects on because they crack me up. Yeah. So for me, here's my setup. What I do immediately, even if someone says greetings, I squelch my opponent right away. Unless I'm just in the zone and I forget, because I don't need that distraction. Later on if they do something, it pisses me off, quite frankly. So I'll do that. I like to either have no music or some music. Like go to YouTube, do a search for Relax Daily. It's just kind of that great background. It's not as lame as like elevator music, but it'll kind of zone out. Listen, have something like that, and then just really focus. Try to block out friends or family. Sometimes that can be difficult, and just someone, once again, we can all be masters of multitasking. Just try to focus and get into the game, and look. And to me, look for things. I like, how fast does your opponent play? Are they quick to do things? Are they taking, are they taking time? Do they click around and bounce around? So you can just kind of try to find a pattern for people, and that may give you that little bit of edge to kind of figure out if your opponent's bluffing. If you're playing a hunter, do they have that kill command, for example, or are they just, trolling you along?
Yeah. For me, I just like I mute everything in the I actually do mute everything in the game, because sometimes a little stuff, like a little bit of like those like noises just pisses me off. Like even the emotes pisses me off of other people. I just squelch them right away and stuff like that. I do say greetings just because I want common courtesy, right? Common courtesy. And just give them a little bit of respect, and then that's pretty much it. But then I really like to put like upbeat music, because then I like to hype myself up before the game and stuff like that. But yeah.
So on repeat. Sometimes at the end, I'll do. I'm able to do well played at. But after I beat them,
Yeah, not before. That's also BM in a way. That's a little bit of BM.
I used to say hello, and I'm like, you know what? I just don't care, because I just really want to be focused.
Yeah.
Be real focused. There's nothing more frustrating. Let's say if you like you kill one of the minions and then go thank you. I'm like, shut the hell up. Make it a squelch option. Maybe they don't do it because they want to encourage people to be more sociable through emotes. Make an auto squelch option, please.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like the emotes too. Like I don't like the emotes. Like it pisses me off. Like even a little sound can piss me off sometimes, because my RNG is bad and stuff like that. And then I know like in the Hearthstone forums, because I sometimes moderate. I moderate for like my own like tournament thing, and I know that a lot of people, like there's a lot of ragers and stuff like that. They're like, you guys need to pretty much calm down, because if you want to climb higher, calmness is the key, because if you're flooded with a lot of rage and stuff like that, you're not gonna climb any higher. I know you hate like face hunters, I know you hate tempo mages, and I know you hate RNG, but what can you do? This is the game you play, right? So I think having a calm mind, no matter what, it really helps you with the climb. So yeah.
While we're talking about pet peeves, there are no substitutions for preparation. There is no substitution for Alex. What I mean by that is there's some certain cards that have such a unique ability. If you do sort of substitute something out, it's going to heavily weaken the deck, but that always cracks me up.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about like, oh, on my rogue deck, it's like, what's the substitution for preparation? What's the substitution for blade flurry and stuff like that, right? Well, you can't really substitute those cards. The best I'm gonna tell you is like substitute it with a card that's really solid on its own, like Pilot Shredder, Yeti, and stuff like that, or even Gnomish Inventor, so it can give you tempo and a card draw. There are really specific cards that you need to use to win against your certain matchups. But then since you don't have the card, right, then you might as well just put in something that's good on its own and like can stand a chance by itself without without complementing with other cards. Like preparation is a very situational card. You need a spell card to make it like use it to its full value. But since you don't have that, then you might as well play a card that's good on its own that can do efficient trades and stuff like that. So I really recommend something valuable like Gnomish, Yetis, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, for something like that, people don't want to hear this. I mean, I waited to play, like, if you're going to play that type of rogue, wait till you can craft the preps, or play a different deck that doesn't rely on them.
Yeah.
And it's different, like taking in a Loathleb for a Harrison. They both block something or take away some ability. That's interchangeable, but when it's something so unique, it's like, you just... like Mechanus. People say, what's a substitute for Mechanus? I mean, his ability, he's just too unique. I mean, you could put another big creature, but... they're really, or some other demon, like the other demon, like what, like the infernal,
yeah.
What the hell are they called? Yeah. The Dread Infernals. You could put those in, and no, it's not going to do the same thing. It's not going to be able to save your ass. So
yeah.
That's what people need to keep in mind. Swapping out cards, it's going to weaken the deck, or you need to.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the Blood Mage, yes, you can swap them out with the Loot Hoarder, but just know you're only going to get the card draw. You're not, or swap out with a Kobold, and you're only going to get the spell damage. Yeah. It's going to deck either way, but you need to choose.
Yeah, some decks, like, you really need those specific cards to win, and yeah, you might as well just try your best and play Arena and then grind up and stuff like that. Like, that's what I usually tell people, like, just play Arena, grind up the gold, and then just buy the packs, and just hope that you have the dust for it, or you can eventually open into one. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So speaking of which, are you saving up your gold for the next expansion?
Yeah, I think I would save up my gold like for the next expansion, unless I really want more cards from it. But if it's if it's like a really big game changer, because if they have if that expansion have a lot of core cards, then I would spend money on it, because I want like for sure I want like something like Dr. Boom, right, from GVG, because I actually spent money on it, and then I really wanted Dr. Boom and craft into that. But if it's not that important, like if I check all the cards and they're not that important, then I probably spend gold on it, because if it doesn't impact the meta that much, because Dr. Boom was like the real one card you need from GVG, because it just impacted everything, and you're at a real disadvantage if you don't have it and stuff like that. But yeah, it really depends on the cards they give out, right? Yeah,
I'm glad that you mentioned the impact, because with Max, there's a lot of key core, like Mad Scientist. I wouldn't even think about playing like Mage or Hunter without that. Yeah. Without that card, or there's just so many good cards, and I know there's been a lot of debate about that. But with BlackRock, and this happens with I go back to Magic, because Magic has been around for such a long time. Some expansions you only get one or two like really good cards for a class, and later on you may have to wait for them to synergize. Like Hunter got quick shots, which I think people may complain. I think they kind of needed that boost since Leroy got nerfed. So you have things like that. You have your patrons, and then you have some other cards that probably won't get play as much. Like what's that one Hunter? That one Hunter legendary where every time they take a damage, they like double their attack.
Gazarilla, yeah.
So to me, like, that's one of those fun cards where if I had them, I would put them in a deck. But I don't think I'm gonna spend the dust like how I've gotten my first brawl I had to craft, my second brawl I got in the pack. I don't know if I would craft that. Like, that's my dilemma with Harrison. Is there are times where he's such a good card, and I can literally, like, if you're playing against Rogue or playing against Warrior, even Paladin, you can change the side of the game. But then maybe Ooze would have been as effective. So it's one of those cards. There are those cards where you'd like to have, but maybe you don't want to spend you don't want to spend the dust. There's something more critical that you could craft. And so being that you mentioned the next expansion, I'm like, maybe I want to save my dust, or I want to get that expansions, Doctor Boom. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to wait or have to spend either wait or spend a lot of money. So that's I don't know.
Yeah. It all depends on the cards and how much it impacts the meta. Like if do I really desperately need it and stuff like that. But yeah, if you guys don't have the money for the next expansion, just get a job, work for a week, and just buy all the packs. I think that's what I did. That's what I did for like. I think when first Hearthstone came out, I think that's what I did. Just got a job, worked for a week, and then just bought some packs, and then I was good to go. Yeah. Unless you're a free-to-player and you're really dedicated to it, then yeah, Arena's the way to go too. Because I did grind Arena after some parts, after I bought like the packs. This is one of the series that we're gonna do for quite a while. So I really like doing podcasts because we're talking about the knowledge of Hearthstone, and we're really like you guys that we're sort of like the underdogs of Hearthstone. We're not specifically really skilled players, but we're decently in the game, so we sort of think alike, and we sort of think a lot about like certain stuff that you guys think about. Like we hate on RNG, sometimes we hate hunters, sometimes we're really salty and stuff like that, and then we can relate to you guys, so we're sort of the underdogs. And then we're also fighting to get to legend one day, but we're also knowledgeable at the same time, so we can discuss a lot about that. So you guys have some things that you want to talk about, or some things that you want us to do, or some things you want us to go over, you can just put it on the comments below, and then we can take a look, and then we're gonna do that on our next podcast, because I really like talking about this stuff. I really like discussing, and if you guys really enjoy it, then give us a comment below and give us some suggestions what we can do better. And this is our first one. It might be a little messy at first, but I think we will improve more in the future and put out even more content. Yeah, and then we're gonna call our little podcast Meta Ragers, because I feel like it's a suitable name. We're always talking about the meta, and sometimes we might rage like 24/7. I think I rage out quite a bit too, but yeah. I rage quite a bit, but I don't usually show it on camera because I think it might be scary. But I think I might show it once in a while just to make fun of myself. But yeah, Meta Rager is a very suitable name. And then also, I'm probably gonna make a new channel for this as well, for the podcast, and we're probably gonna call it the Meta Ragers. And me and Kill-9 right here, we're gonna be doing this together, and I hope you guys support us. People from my channel, I love you guys for sticking around, and even though I've been missing for 2 weeks long and you guys are still with me, I hope you support me with this new channel as well. I'm probably gonna put more content on the new channel with like gameplay videos for certain decks that we're gonna go over, and we're gonna give you guys a lot of tips, and then we're gonna expand on Magic of the Gathering as well, on Magic of the Gathering when it's back online, and it's gonna have a similar business model to Hearthstone, so I'm really excited for that as well. So do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say I can vouch for this guy really being sick, because he wasn't even playing Hearthstone. Like he wasn't even like in the game. But yeah, when the Magic the Gathering goes free to play, I forget what they're calling it, like, Magic Origins.
I need to learn that game because I have no experience with Magic, but I think it would be fun at the same time because I'm really passionate about like all those card games and stuff like that. So I think I'll be picking it up quite quickly because I have quite experience with card games, so it wouldn't be too bad.
We want to do a show, like at least try to do this once a week, once every 2 weeks, our schedules and everything permitting. And I also want to say too that we definitely don't have all the cards. We're not like someone who can just plunk down $500 and buy everything. We're not totally free to play. I guess budget players would be.
Yeah. I could say we're more about budget players. You guys might see that I have a lot of cards, but then I started since open beta. Like I've been playing Arena quite a bit and stuff like that. I've been buying like a couple of 60 packs and stuff like that. A couple of sets of 60 packs. So yeah, that's how I got my cards. So I can say I'm myself as a budget player. I didn't spend over like $200 in this game. So yeah. So yeah.
My wife would kill me. No.
yeah. Your wife might kill you. Might kill you. But yeah. Overall, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time, like always. And I might put some gameplay videos out for the decks we talk about, and I'll link them or make annotations so that you guys can see them and stuff like that. So I'll see you guys next time, Herminators. So peace out.